This is the Post Shift Podcast, a raw look at the hospitality industry. What's happening, Post Shifters, and welcome to another episode of the Post Shift Podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Shawn Soole, and this week I've got my last Whiskey Fest episode, which is the episode with Ray Daniels, who is the Jim Beam Bourbon Collection brand ambassador for Canada, and he took over from good friends, Matt Jones, who's been on the show before, and so we have a good chat to him and about his direction and how he got to this place in whiskey, because he is an Irishman living in Canada, peddling bourbon. So I enjoyed the conversation we had with him on during Whiskey Fest. So I hope you enjoyed this, guys, and thanks for the support. Bye. So, why don't you start by introducing yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Ray Daniel. I am the American Whiskey Ambassador for Canada with Beam Bourbon.
And where do you originally come from? Obviously, you have an accent like me.
Yes, yeah. I'm definitely not from Kentucky. A little bit further east. I come from Clane in Kildare in Ireland. So, not too far away. Our closest distillery, say, would be Kilbeggan Irish whiskey. Not too far away.
And how does an Irishman end up as the American whiskey brand ambassador for Beam Suntory?
How do you end up as an ambassador for any brand, really?
Let's slide this.
It's
down there. That's perfect.
Cool.
There we go.
Yeah, how did I guess?
I know it's very stereotypical of me. You're an Irishman. Why would you want to push bourbon?
Yeah, I think you can't really help what you believe in, right? So when you do find brands and you find liquid that you genuinely believe in, to me, it doesn't really matter where you're from or, sure, it would be a lot more sense for me to peddle Irish whiskey. Yeah. Certainly be a lot easier. But,
there's an Irish whiskey brand in Canada that only hires Irish people. So.
Well, that is true. That is true, yes.
And it's just a rotating door of Irish people every year.
They're 3 years and out, I think I just, I fell in love with the portfolio. And, yourself, and with being an ambassador for any company, it's timing and luck, right? And I just happened to be at a certain point in my career where I was ready for it when my predecessor moved on to a different portfolio. So,
when did you move to Canada?
I moved to Canada in 2006.
Okay, so you've been here the same amount of time I have.
Yeah.
And what brought you to Canada?
At the time I had spent some time in the States beforehand. I moved back to Ireland, and I actually ended up getting a really, really good job. I was beverage operations manager basically for a 4-star hotel at 21. So it was a really, really good job. But I just, after kind of seeing that big bad world and then coming back to this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere in Ireland, I kind of started to get itchy feet pretty quickly. And there was a buddy of mine from college who, at the time, he was getting ready to move back from Toronto back to Ireland. His visa was done, and he had been kind of talking about how great it was and that I should give it a shot. So I applied for my my visa, and I went on to a waiting list thing, right? So if X amount of people drop out, sure, you can come. And I think I was 200 and something on the waiting list. So I was okay, I'm not going to get it. And I think it was Halloween night or Halloween day, the letter came through the mail that you've got your visa, but you have until December 31st to use it.
Jesus, 2 months.
Yeah, so I was like, all right,
let's go.
Yeah, so I kind of took a day or two. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And gave my notice at work.
I know where you went.
Yeah, December 9th, I moved to Toronto.
Wow. Have you always been in the industry?
Yes.
Hard and fast Irish hospitality style guy?
Yeah, my first bar job was 14.
Wow.
And since then, I think I had a little bit of a break. I used to play music. That was kind of what my schooling and stuff was in. And back in the early 2000s, I was in a band that was doing pretty well. So I took maybe about a 9-month, 10-month break from bar purely because I had to be playing in them, not serving pints in them. But it's been bars my entire life.
Wow. Yeah, because sometimes you get that story of I've been doing it for my whole life, but then at other times it's no, I did this.
Right, yeah.
And I always love those stories. I sat down with a ton of people in the last 2 days, but David de Kokomo, he, the Canadian whiskey god, he was an aid worker. And you're like, oh, really? That really makes complete sense of
it. It really does.
He was as pure as driven snow and the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
And then Chris Thompson was a production manager for music.
I did know that was Chris.
And I was like, so what sort of famous band were you ever with a famous band? And he's like, I was expecting no one. And he's like, I was with the Backstreet Boys for their Canadian tour, and I'm like, excuse me, what? What do you mean you were with the Backstreet Boys?
I would love to see Chris Thompson hanging out with the Backstreet Boys.
And
that would be one of my favorite things.
Someone in Campari a couple of years ago like put the call out. Does anyone know who the Backstreet Boys are for like the big international conference they had in Vegas? And Chris was like, yeah, I can sort you out. It's just like, and he still does like big music events and everything. So
he's a great guy.
You moved to Toronto. Have you always been in Toronto while you've been here in Canada?
Yeah.
Oh, so you've been in Toronto for like 14 years.
Yeah, like it's the initial plan wasn't really that. I was going to kind of fly to Toronto because it was the hub, pretty much the closest direct flight from Ireland, and then kind of have a look around for a little while, but. At the very, very start, the plan was actually to come to Vancouver.
Okay.
And when I got to Toronto, I'll never forget. It was the middle of a blizzard. I think the airport got closed down like 2 or 3 hours after I landed. I'd never really seen snow, right? Like it was not known for being a very snowy place unless you go up to the mountains that one day a year. And it was just snow everywhere, and it was so cold. Like I'd never experienced cold like it until like 2 days ago in Edmonton. And yeah, like I hated it. I hated it so much. Like every day having to trudge like through feet of snow getting to go get groceries or something. And I kind of wanted to. I blew through my money a little bit quicker than I should have, as you do when you're a young guy traveling. So I got a job at Irish Embassy in Toronto. Initially, the idea was to just get a couple bucks to basically fund the next leg over to Vancouver, and then the snow started to melt and the smiles started to come back onto people's faces, and I realized Toronto is actually a really great city, and I fell in love.
If you weren't here in Victoria, we had Snowmageddon on this week in Victoria. We got 3 feet, like a solid foot of snow. City shut down.
Just done.
And then even while you were here yesterday, there was snow everywhere, and then this morning I wake up and my backyard's green again. My backyard's green. I'm like, oh, that was the quickest snow melt I've ever seen in Victoria. Yeah, my daughter had a snow day. The city is ridiculous when it snows, but I saw like friends minus 14, minus 40 in Edmonton over the week.
I have never been so aware of being alive. It was so cold. Like every breath was like daggers. Like who hurt you, Edmonton? Like it was crazy. I feel for them. I really do.
So when did you sort of start getting ingrained in the bar industry in Toronto? What sort of you like?
It's kind of weird. I kind of didn't. I mean, like the bar that I say would have left. The last 2 bars I worked in Ireland before I moved over, there was a very heavy cocktail presence, but we didn't have anybody who had experience really in cocktails, right? There was one manager who had worked on cruise ships, and we had one manager who had actually spent a lot of time in New York and Chicago and then moved back to Ireland. So they kind of gotten the external experience and then moved home and kind of tried to bring it through. But a lot of like the other bartenders on our teams, they were just, it was, we want to pour our pints and make our gin and tonics, and that's kind of what we want to do for our job. I kind of like the idea of getting a bit more creative, so I kind of latched on to those 2 guys and learned as much as I could from them. And when I moved to Toronto, like I wanted to get involved in all that, but I was here on my own. I didn't arrive with a whole lot of money with me because I only had a month ready to share. So like to me, the most important thing was just working and building up the money. And like Toronto is a very it's a very social cocktail scene. Lots of meetups, lots of the top black sessions, stuff like that. And I didn't have time to kind of socialize really with any of that. So I kind of got into this just routine of working 6 days a week, and they were kind of the 4 p.m. till 3 a.m. shifts, and it wasn't until probably about realistically maybe 3 or 4 years ago that I kind of started to. I had buddies who were in the industry just from kind of meeting around the place, but that I really kind of started to get back involved and competing again and stuff like that, and getting out and meeting people, and kind of it was a bit annoying because after that long you kind of get to see what you actually missed out on for the 10 years. But I think also not being as social with it probably helped me stay in Canada because I got to work and build up a good relationship with a company who wanted me to stay here. So
So with that, like, how did even the bourbon thing come about when it came to like the brand ambassadorship? Like, because usually what you see is that you see people be really ingrained in the culture and in the craft, and then a brand ambassadorship comes up and they've won a couple of competitions with that brand and sort of built out that. How did that role come about for you?
It's strange. I've never really seen whiskey in categories. Might sound very much like the whiskey version of I don't see color, right? But it's but kind of, right? Like, I mean, I very much believe there's a different type of whiskey for every occasion, and I never kind of broke it down into I only like Scotch, I only like bourbon, I only like Canadian, I only like Irish, whatever. It's if it tastes good, it tastes good, and I don't really care where it's from, right? And I went and opened up Char Number 5 in South of Toronto, which was a whiskey bar, a Canadian whiskey bar originally when we opened, and then we kind of expanded out into the rest of the world. And with that, obviously it turned into quite a successful little bar, and with the location and with kind of the ties into Marriott and stuff, we got a fair amount of press, and there's a lot more people started paying attention to the bar, and in turn to me. So in order to kind of try and build the bar, I decided to start competing again. I hadn't competed in 10, 12 years. So I started to do that. I ended up winning one competition for actually a competitor bourbon brand of what I work with now. And had a great experience with that. And they I started to, fill in for them if they had any need for sort of do a masterclass, whatever. They didn't actually have an ambassador at the time in Canada. And then through that, I kind of started to get a little bit more involved with different ambassadors around, forged a really good friendship with Matt Jones, who's still a very close friend. Yeah, I mean, he's the best. And kind of through that, Matt was kind of very gracious. He kind of took me under his wing and taught me the ins and outs. And at the time he was working on the bourbon portfolio, and Marcio left the World Whiskey portfolio, and Matty jumped into that, and he kind of said to me, "Hey, I think you'd be a good fit for this if you're interested." So I applied, and why the hell not? See what happens. And they offered it to me. So
since then, how has it been taken over for because Matt Jones is like a Canadian treasure. He's a freaking legend. He is even from his Flair days, he's always sort of been ingrained in the thing. And he, as a bourbon ambassador, he basically just the change of his dress code from when he went from the bourbon ambassador to the Bowmore, the
he went very biker to chic, didn't he?
Very good. The beard suddenly shrunk up, and he's wearing tailored suits and kilts and shit. And
he looks good in the suit.
He does, especially now with the whole freaking CrossFit thing.
He's an inspiration.
And dude, 3 months ago you were in freaking flannel and jeans and freaking cowboy hats and shit. What the fuck?
I know he misses it deep down.
Him and Dave Mint literally are the human embodiment of a category.
They really are. Yeah, they really are.
That's a pretty big shoes to fill, regardless of a mentor-mentee sort of mentality and sort of relationship. It's still big shoes to fill.
I don't think I ever really looked at it in that way. Sure, there's always going to be that thing in the back of your head of I have to be within a certain amount of time, if not better than the person before him, but at least as good, so that you're playing with the boys, keeping up with the big boys, right? But I think the way I approached it was that in order to be a really good ambassador, you have to bring yourself to it. And you can't be worrying about the person behind you or the person in front of you. You have to kind of do it yourself. And, that was the approach I took. I just wanted to bring my own personality to it, and I didn't really spend a whole lot of time thinking about, just stepping into Matt's shoes, right? And Matty had kind of given me that heads up as well when I took the job, do it your own way.
That's a good thing to see, because I think when any young bartender becomes a brand ambassador, they always look at I really want to be like this person, I really want to sort of emulate this person, and that's why I asked, because I was very curious to see if you saw it as a challenge, but as a bourbon brand ambassador, you've got a wicked portfolio. You really can't beat it. The only upset thing that I am about 2019 is that Baker's went from what it was to what it is. It tripled in price. Like, Baker's was always my bang for the buck, like underdog, because everybody was like, oh, you gotta drink Booker's, and you're like, yeah, okay, cool. Well, you gotta drink Maker's Mark, but Baker's always sat in this sort of category of like, nobody really knew about it, nobody like bothered me about it, and it was just a perfect bottle to always have on my shelf.
We don't do anything with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of just, we kind of like that people just kind of stumble across it. You know, we don't really allocate anything to marketing for it or advertising for it. It's just, it's that little hidden gem within a great portfolio, right? I mean, it's probably, out of our entire portfolio, it's probably my most common go-to.
Oh, for me, it's got all the texture and flavor of Booker's without that unnecessary cask strength sort of like thing to it. It's just like, how much cask strength whiskey can anyone drink?
Well, yeah, there's.
Can you sit on the couch and actually?
How much should anyone drink? I guess is really
just session drink fucking cask strength Booker's. So how long have you been in the role now? It's going to be getting close to a year now, shouldn't it? Maybe longer.
Coming close to 2. It'll be 2 years. When will it be 2 years?
May.
Right. May will be 2 years. Yeah.
And so, what were your pros? Like, what were your misconceptions? I know Manny probably told you all the like wonderfulness, but like, what was your misconception going into it that you've gone, oh, I wasn't expecting that to happen?
Okay, so my bosses are going to be listening to this, so I have to be very careful. I know. I was incredibly lucky coming into this job in that I had a lot of very close friends who were already working in a position. So before I even accepted it, like I sat down with every single one of them and was like, I want the hard truth here and not,
the glossy social media version.
Exactly. So I was pretty prepared for anything that was going to throw at me. When you I think the travel is the hard part. Travel is the really hard part because when you start, it's kind of fantastic. You're kind of getting on an airplane, going to a different city. I've been living in Canada for 13 years at the time and hadn't seen anything except for I was in Edmonton for 1 day and I was in Calgary for 2 days. And Ottawa for a day. Like that's all I'd seen outside of Toronto. So it was kind of cool getting to see all these places for the first time and meet some amazing people and incredible communities across the country. But all of a sudden it's now week 6 and you haven't been at home. Then you start to kind of realize little things like, the friends stop calling for, hey man, do you want to go for a drink? Because they know you're not going to be at home to do that, right? So, the road's a lonely place when you're on your own, right? Yeah. So I think just kind of dealing with that and keeping composure when it starts to get a little bit rough. You know how it is, buddy. But I think that was kind of it. I didn't realize exactly how.
Do you have a partner?
I do, yes.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Understanding one, obviously?
Yes, an incredibly understanding one. I don't know what I did to deserve it, but I'm not going to question it too much. But little things like that, I hate saying goodbye to Alicia on a Monday morning or whatever, and knowing you're not going to see her until Friday evening, which in reality, a lot of relationships do that anyway. You might not see them during the week, but when you're in a different city, it's a bit...
Like my wife is super honest. We've been together, we've been married 11 years this year. Wow. So it's it's definitely all on her, not on me. I don't deserve at all any of it. But we put into perspective of being away for 10 weeks, and that second trip to Singapore was if you were over in a venue here in Victoria, I wouldn't see you anyway. You'd be at work until after I go to bed, you'd be up just before I get up, and I wouldn't see you anyway. It's not different. It's difficult, but my wife she always has a thing that she accepts me for who I am. She never tries to understand me for who I am.
Right, okay.
So because understanding, I think people that travel and can do it and that sort of thing is the perfect person that loves you is someone who doesn't try to understand you. They just accept you for who you are. You're crazy. It's
you're crazy self, yeah.
There's only so many times you do one day in a place and you're looking at the same ceiling when you're lying in a different bed in a different hotel in a different room.
Yeah, it's I think that's probably the toughest part. I think health-wise, it's actually been better for me with this job, which is strange.
It is strange.
Again, working in bars for the better part of 17, 18 years, my sleeping habits were all over the place. they were really messed up, and a lot of time I just wouldn't. My eating habits were terrible because you're getting home at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you want to pick something up on the way home to eat, and what are you going to eat? Because what's opening at 3 o'clock in the morning, right?
Or you nuke things that aren't supposed to be nuked. You microwave things that should never be put in the microwave.
Yeah,
I just want it to be hot.
Eating jars of mayo, but. And then also, I think working in bars, I think one of the big things that a lot of people really need to watch out for is that, because the majority of your time is spent giving people a good time, that when you do get that day off, you tend to go a little hard. But now, I barely drink.
Really?
Barely drink. I sleep. I actually get 6-7 hours a night, every night.
It's literally the story I haven't heard from any brand ambassador ever, except for maybe Taylor. I sat down with Taylor at Corrigan today.
Right, okay.
I had a chat to him.
I haven't seen Taylor in a while, actually.
Yeah, he's like, I got a yoga class first thing this morning. I'm like, cool, awesome, I'll see you at that. I've never heard any brand ambassador go, you know what, I drink less, I sleep more.
Yeah. I think for sure it could go the other way. The ability is there, right? But I think I've just been very conscious of. I know how I am, and when I have with that sort of easy access, I know how I could get, and you just go. So I just go, do I want to drink? Do I actually want one? Yeah. And a lot of the time when I think about it, the answer is no. Just want something to do.
So you still have coming on to 2 years, the shelf life of brand ambassadors generally. I sat down with Tish, which she's the brand ambassador to rule them all. Yes. There's going to be one.
Yeah, Mama. She's the best.
32 years sort of thing with the same company.
It's crazy.
In any industry, that's still that's really unheard of.
Yeah.
In any whatever job, whatever industry, it's still unheard of. Coming on 2 years, do you still wake up every morning? I asked Tish this too, it's big time for her, but do you still wake up and go, you know what, I'm fucking loving my job, I'm ready to fucking rock and roll and spread the gospel of bourbon?
Sure. Yeah. I think it's kind of I love what I do. I really love what I do. It's still work, and
which I think a lot of people sometimes don't understand.
Yeah. And that was, you're talking about realizations after a little bit of time. That is one of the big ones that you kind of realize this isn't. You're not getting paid to play, right? This is it's work.
People go, oh, you're going to Tails this year? That's awesome. 5 days. I'm like, yeah, but my body within 3 to 3.5 days, my body's like, oh, fuck you, I'm done.
And you don't get that day when you come back to recover because you got to go somewhere else, right? I still very much see it as being a job, and I really like to, when my work day is done, switch it off and kind of have some sort of a normal life outside whenever I can. But I still enjoy what I do. I think, I'm still humbled by the fact that I get to represent 2 incredible whiskey making families and the traditions and the histories, the legacy that they've left behind over generation to generation. It's an honor to be able to talk about those. And, that's never gone away. And we've got some really, really cool stuff coming in the future that I'm really looking forward to being able to share with Canada. And I think there's a lot of weight that comes with this job that you forget sometimes. It's kind of, it keeps me on track a lot of the time as well, knowing that it's my responsibility not only to represent these brands but also bring as much as I possibly can to the bar communities in Canada. And the reality of it is I am the guy that I am because of working in bars, right? And that taught me everything I ever needed to know for life, right? So I want to give back to the communities as much as possible. So I still love it.
What you been playing for 2020, personally and professionally?
Personally, I think last year was kind of getting a lot of just getting myself kind of on track. It was going to be my first full year out of bars in
20 years.
Yeah. So it was kind of setting myself for I'm in this job now. My first 6 or 8 months or whatever is out of the way. This year, I think both Alicia and I are very much focusing on health this year and being healthy and happy and enjoying each other and enjoying life together. So that's kind of a big focus, I think, for myself is just still working hard and still kind of doing everything I can for work, but also also maybe taking a little more time to be Ray and be healthy. I think that's kind of the biggest plan. Personally, professionally, there's always room for improvement, no matter what you're doing and how long you've been doing it. So I think I'm just going to focus a bit more on getting better, kind of reassessing some of my presentations and some of my styles. I'm going to hopefully get down to Kentucky a couple more times this year and go through some more education down there with the folks in the distillery, which is, really important.
Well, it's never ending.
It's never ending.
You go back and you're like, oh, I didn't pick that up last time. And it may be the exact same round of stuff.
You leave realizing that you didn't know anything.
Yeah.
God damn it. But yeah, I think, I just improving. I think that's what this year's going to be about.
What good whiskies are you looking forward to this year that you can talk about?
That I can talk about. Okay, so we will be having... It's always tough, right? Because we know what ones we want to have in Canada.
Yeah.
Doesn't always go to plan. Board by board situation, or maybe allocations to dry up a little bit. Some launches in the States and it's a bit bigger than they thought it was going to, so allocation has to come from somewhere. I think there's a Knob Creek 17-year-old that's going to be coming out. Now, normally, I'm not a huge fan of higher age bourbons.
Yeah.
I find out they can get just super dry, really
ocean. Like sucking on matchsticks and taking a shot of bourbon,
Yeah. However, this is not that. They definitely were, running a bit of a line on it because it feels like it's, just on the edge of a little bit longer, and it would be.
Yeah.
But they kind of seem to have found a perfect balance with it.
And 17 is also a weird number too. It's usually, and I know it's very Scotch driven, but 12, 15, 18. Yeah, 17 is perfect. Yeah, but 17 is such a weird number.
Yeah, it's. I haven't actually talked to the R&D team or the guys at the distillery about exactly where the whole idea for it came from. Knowing the way the guys end their work, a lot of the time it's just, okay, this tastes good. We found something that tastes good. And in reality, it's all that matters. Yeah. Right? We were never huge on age stating everything that we did anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of times the age statement it's a marketing thing, right? But yeah, it's a big, bold whiskey. There's a 10-year basil rye. Which I haven't got a chance to taste yet, but I'm really looking forward to that. Little Book Chapter 4, which I'm not allowed to talk about. If I was, I wouldn't be able to because Frey doesn't tell us anything.
I have yet to taste any of the Little Book stuff yet.
Any of it?
Any of it.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, well, being in Singapore was a lot last year, traveling. I think I was home for 5 weeks from May till end of October.
Right.
Yeah, so I wasn't in town, and I've just been unplugged from the scene. I'm not running a bar anymore. I'm not at a venue, so I'm and Solomon's really good. He'll always pick up stuff and get us to taste and stuff. But not being at a bar, I just don't. It's not something that I think about.
That's fair.
Even Whiskey Fest crept up on me. Oh shit, next week's Whiskey Fest. Monday, I'm scrambling to get everybody booked for podcasts.
I'll make sure you get a couple of little Sheridan bottles or whatever.
I would love that.
The chapter 2 was neat. It was blend of 3 ryes. Thank you very much. We had a 8-year-old Kentucky rye, a 13-year-old Canadian rye, and a 40-year-old Canadian whiskey. Edition 3, which I think it was released as part of the spirits release here in BC.
Yeah.
It's the first full bourbon in the collection. Yeah. So it's 9-year-old Basil Hayden, there's a 9-year-old Knob Creek, which is pretty standard, 11-year-old Booker's, and a 12-year-old Baker's. And it's just big. And Freddie's telling a really cool story with all these whiskeys, and he's just super tight-lipped. Yeah. He doesn't tell anybody. He doesn't tell Fred. So, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Chapter 4 is. And he's probably best because he told me I probably would tell somebody. So,
let's tie this off because I know you're super busy today. But what would be your last thought for a young bartender who wants to become a brand ambassador? And we touched on it a little bit. What would be your last thought for anyone who wanted to become a brand ambassador? And how do you sort of feel that you go about it? What to sort of set yourself apart?
It's a really good question, man. Like, I think there's so much luck involved in it. You know, at the end of the day, you've got one job for the entire country, and there's a lot of the people in your field are looking for that one job, right? Being visible is for sure something, right? Like, companies aren't going to see you unless you're out there to be seen. So, I mean, like, competitions, there's some great competitions out there, there's some really crappy competitions out there. No matter what, there's still visibility points. I think one of the main things would be figure out what you want to be an ambassador of.
And be true to it.
Yeah, like, do you just want to be an ambassador because you want to
be an ambassador?
Yeah, like, is it an ego thing, or is it because you want to actually represent a brand and a category, right? And, I do see a lot of people kind of that are trying to get their names out there, but 1 week they're associating themselves with tequila and talking about these great tequila brands, and the next week they're working with a vodka company, and the next week they're working, and there's no, that to me is kind of somebody who is more looking for the visibility than the category they want to actually work in. And, find what you love and work towards that, right? Like, if it's whiskey, try to find a job at a whiskey bar, join a whiskey society, start a whiskey society, go and listen to ambassadors doing masterclasses, come to festivals like this, make yourself seen by the people in that world you want to work in, and cross your fingers and hope. That's pretty much it, right? But hard work is everything.
Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me, buddy. I know that.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
It's good to see you.
Thanks, Post Shifters. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're listening, whatever platform you're on, give me a good rating, subscribe, listen along. I'm going to keep going. I really enjoy sitting down with people and learning where they're from, what they did, and how they got to where they were. So if you love it, give me a good 5 stars. If you don't, give me 1 and I'll try harder.